TV.
Welcome back to the evening news on Multicultural Television. I am Rishi Harinanan. We do have joining us now a former member of the Police Service Commission and Attorney Martin George as we talk about the position of Commissioner of Police, which is a major talking point across Trinidad and Tobago today, and it's going to be a conversation that we're going to continue to have at least until someone is confirmed in the position, and also to get his thoughts on the government's decision to extend the state of emergency. Mr. George, good evening and thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, hi, good evening to you, Rishi, and good evening to all your viewers, and good evening, Trinidad and Tobago.
Mr. George, first of all, a lot of talk surrounding the Commissioner of Police position. Gary Griffiths is confirmed as acting in the position. How long do you expect this to go for?
Well, the thing is, it's not something that one would have imagined should have really occurred at all if it is that you had sufficient lead time to carry out the interviews and all the requirements of the selection process. And there has been no definite date given as to how long this is going to run for. So I think that's where the calls have come for the Police Service Commission to be a bit more transparent with the public and to ensure that they give sufficient information. Of course, nobody's asking you to reveal your confidentiality or to in any way compromise the process, but certainly to inspire the confidence of the public in the integrity of your process, you need to ensure that you provide relevant and necessary information to the public, whereas people are left in the dark, and obviously that leads to speculation. And any sort of idle speculation such as that tends to undermine the process and the integrity of your selection system.
Yeah. And the opposition had already questioned the change in the process for selecting the Commissioner of Police.
Well, I also questioned it because when one looked at it, really and truly, what you ended up doing is turning the Police Service Commission into a recruitment agency. And if you look at the Constitution, and that's why I always like to have recourse to the law, if one looks at the Constitution, you would recognize that the constitutional role and function of the Police Service Commission, as per Section 123, is really to be an oversight and regulatory body. It is not really to engage directly in the recruitment itself, because it then also puts you in a rather invidious position, because if you end up choosing the top candidate to put that name forward, you go through the entire process of the interviews, everything, every aspect of the selection you do, then this is your candidate. So then when you are called upon later on to exercise disciplinary and regulatory and oversight control, it puts you in a slightly difficult position, because he could turn around and say, but did you choose me? Basically, so what are you complaining about? And that's where I think the previous process, as cumbersome as it may have been, had some benefit in terms of creating that distance and that arm's length between the Police Service Commission and the persons who were chosen for the shortlist.
How long do you expect this process to go on for us to actually have the substantive Commissioner of Police in place? Because one would have assumed that we know that the Gary Griffiths' term was coming to an end, and so measures should have been put in place to ensure that as soon as that ends, someone fills that position.
Well, I think these are questions the Police Service Commission has to answer, and that's why I'm saying I support all the calls for greater transparency and greater accountability from them as a body. They are a constitutionally appointed body. They are answerable to the nation in that regard, because you have been given a very sacred duty and a sacred mandate. So therefore, it's not something that you can say, well, I'm disregarding, the cries of the people to say, well, give some accountability, give some transparency. They ought to come forth and say, well, look, we expect to put the names forward by this date. We have completed this aspect of the process. As I say, you don't have to reveal your intimate details or breach your confidentiality, but certainly you need to give a level of accountability so that the public can have confidence in the process.
Well, we know one contender is Gary Griffith. He seems confident of returning as the substantive Commissioner of Police. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that is a possibility?
Well, I don't have the information, so there's no way I can have a view on that.
Yeah. Mr. George, I also wanted to get your thoughts on the government's decision to extend the state of emergency. Although it's going to be debated in Parliament on Wednesday, it needs a simple majority to be passed. So more than likely, well, they're almost 100% sure that the state of emergency is going to go on for another 3 months.
Yes, I mean, I think we could take it as a fait accompli that it will be extended for another 3 months. And while it is that the government may have its reasons for wanting to extend the state of emergency, what I would ask the Prime Minister to consider is to change the hours of the curfew, to at least move it to midnight instead of 9 p.m. So that way you can facilitate greater doing of business. And what I would also suggest is that the government look at bringing legislation, even if they have to do it in terms of sectors. For instance, if they bring legislation to say, well, look, for the restaurant sector, we can reopen the restaurant sector fully, but all patrons must be fully vaccinated, all staff members must be fully vaccinated, all service providers must be fully vaccinated. If it is that you're looking at, for instance, the bars may be able to reopen if you bring similar legislation. So maybe the government may have to do it sector by sector to get the message across in terms of vaccination. I was heartened to see today the Prime Minister is actually coming around to a position that I have suggested quite some time ago, that we have to consider the question of mandatory vaccinations. I saw that he mentioned in terms of primary school children or school children in general, that if it is that by mid-September the vaccination rates do not come up, we may have to implement the question of mandatory vaccination. And that is not a novel or outlandish or alien concept. All of us as children were vaccinated, and that is under the law that is in place, under the public health law, which is for mandatory vaccination of school children. Our polio vaccinations, measles, smallpox, diphtheria, yellow fever, all those things we got as children, and the little immunization cards we used to have, that was part of a mandatory vaccination program. So I don't know what's all the hysteria about, and I don't know why the government is, dragging its feet on it and not taking the bold initiative, because that's the fastest way to get the nation back to business, getting us to reopen everything, reopen the beaches, reopen the rivers, the bars, the restaurants. Let's get back on with life. People are fed up of the lockdown. They are fed up of the SOE. They're fed up of the curfew. Everybody wants to be able to move freely, live freely. We know the road to that success is vaccination. The government needs to bite the bullet and ensure that if it is that persons do not voluntarily vaccinate, that it brings the legislation to vaccinate mandatorily. So my suggestion would be that you try to motivate to vaccinate. If not, legislate to vaccinate.
Yeah, and for the children, it's a simple process because you have the Education Act. It's just a simple order that needs to be put in. But that's a conversation. Hopefully, we would have another day. Mr. George, do you think the state of emergency has worked, and do you think it's going to work?
Well, the thing is, I did an analysis which I had presented publicly after a month of the implementation of the state of emergency. The state of emergency was implemented on 15th May. And by 15th June, I did a day-by-day comparison of 1 month before the implementation of the state of emergency and 1 month after. And I looked at all the figures in terms of the number of COVID cases, the reports of daily COVID cases and daily deaths. And it actually showed within that first month, there was actually an increase over what we had for the month before the state of emergency was implemented. Of course, maybe it might be, and I guess the statisticians and those who are, that way inclined will argue, the social scientists will argue that maybe it was because the spike had occurred, so therefore you had rising numbers anyhow. So that may be the explanation, but the raw data, when one looks at it, for that first month the month prior to the implementation and the first month post-implementation of this state of emergency, if you look at those figures, they tell a very strange story in that the numbers actually increased rather than decreased.
Yeah. Mr. George, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and hopefully we'll hear some more from you on these matters. The debate is on Thursday, and we do have our social contract show on Thursday, so I will be reaching out to Mr. George to join me. Mr. George, thank you very much, attorney.
It's always a pleasure, Richie, and have a good evening to you and your viewers.
Thank you very much, Martin George, attorney and former member of the Police Service Commission. Now it's time for us to join Gordon Peer for your sports report.
Thank you, Rishi, and good night and welcome to our sports report. Cricket opens the innings as 3 wickets in 7 balls, 2 of consecutive Mohammad Abbas beauties ripped through West Indies middle order, burrowing deep into the tail and causing the home team to be dismissed for 150 runs, still trailing by 152 runs against Pakistan. Abbas might have been unlucky not to register anything in the wicket columns yesterday, but his magnificent late burst in the first session today more than made up for that. A 65th rock wicket partnership between Jermaine Blackwood and Nakuma Bonner had kept Pakistan at bay for much of the extended session. But Shaheen Shah Afridi and Abbas saw all that work undone in a 10-minute devastating burst. Afridi ending claiming 6 for 45, scored in the match. Pakistan in the first innings 302 for 9 declared. Alam 124 not out. Baba Azam on 75. Seals, he got 3 for 38. Roach got 3 for 68. West Indies all out for 150. Bonner getting 37 and Jermaine Blackwood getting 33. In more cricket news, Cricket West Indies have forged a new partnership with digital inventory management specialist Horizon to value and unlock revenues from CWI's websites and social media channels. Founded in 2019, Azam is revolutionizing the way rights holders operate in the new digital era and fully supports them across digital commercial life cycles. The company provides a new real-time solution to digital inventory management, leveraging artificial intelligence to help sport and entertainment better track, value and monetize their digital media. Cricket West Indies boasts one of the fastest growing online and social media audiences in the sport, with the Cricket West Indies website having massive followings as well as 400 million followers on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, with over 2.5 million subscribers in YouTube. This growth is a result of the West Indies team being one of the most successful, innovative and loved cricket teams in the world. Of course, West Indies have one of the most impressive records recently in Test match cricket, as well as the first ever 2-time winners of the ICC One-Day International World Cup, and as well they are the back-to-back ICC T20 World Championship. We hope that monetization trickles down to sport in the Caribbean. With the biggest party in sport set to start on Thursday this week, Hero CPL is launching an online merchandising store which will make top quality apparel and souvenirs available worldwide. The store has been designed by Cube Partnership, an expert sports retail, e-commerce, licensing and merchandising business which works with international sporting events and brands including Rugby League World Cup 2021 and Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. The range of merchandise will include items featured in the league and the franchise branding and will be made available to fans throughout the world. In 2020, the Hero CPL had more than 500 million views, with significant interest coming from across the globe. Those Hero CPL fans in the Caribbean and of course around the rest of the world will have a chance to show their true colors with this fantastic range of products. The range of products can be viewed on shopcplt20.com. Chris Watson, Hero CPL Head of Marketing, said, "At the Hero CPL, we are blessed with some of the best fans in the world and are really excited that we are able to launch this online store with a Cube partnership. They have a fantastic track record of delivering exceptional products to customers all over the world. Well, of course, the biggest party in sport is set to begin. Sit back and get ready for it." From cricket to football, with the ladies first, new women's football head coach James Thomas of Wales is pleased with the draw ahead of the CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers. The CONCACAF World Cup Championship, which came off on Saturday. The draw pitched Trinidad and Tobago in Group F alongside Dominica, Grenada, the Turks and Caicos Islands and Nicaragua. Needing to top the group to advance, Thomas had begun training with his team already for a month. He held a virtual session with members of the media on Sunday afternoon, saying that he can now focus on how his team can prepare for the games. Thomas has 49 players currently in his training squad and a number of potential players who have never played for Trinidad and Tobago at his disposal. They are to begin qualifiers in November during the FIFA World Cup Women's match window in November and then as well as in April 2022. which will also serve as a preliminary round for the CONCACAF 2022 Women's Championship. Trinidad is scheduled to begin their tournament against Nicaragua right here in Trinidad and Tobago. Best of luck to the ladies. From the beauties of the game to the not so beautiful things of the beautiful game, as Dimitri Payet was hit by a bottle and threw it back into the crowd before 4 fans stormed the pitch, causing Nice and Marseille game to be abandoned in the French league. Marseille players Payet was struck on the back by a bottle thrown from the home fans as he went to take a corner. He launched it back into the stands, leading fans to pour into the pitch as stewards and players struggled to restrain themselves. After a long delay, the Nice fans came back out to finish the game, but Marseille's players refused to do so. The game was abandoned as a result. Nice was leading 1-0 after Casper Debel's first half goal. Today, Ligue de Football Professionnel, the French league's governing body, said that following the serious incidents, both clubs have been summoned to disciplinary commission on Wednesday. We'll be interested to hear the outcome of that. Well, it was a move 7 years in the making and 10 years since he last wore the shirt. But Chelsea proudly declared on their website earlier this month that Romelu Lukaku had come home. His second debut against Arsenal on Sunday turned into a dream afternoon as Lukaku opened the scoring in an unplayable performance, which the player himself described as dominant. His strike was his first for the club, having failed to find the net in his first 3 years and previous 15 appearances at Stamford Bridge between 2011 and 2014, when he was really a peripheral figure and was never given a Premier League start. European champions Chelsea cruised really to a 2-0 victory over their well-beaten London rivals, and the early signs are showing that this team could take some stopping, especially with Lukaku on board. From one legend to another, Lionel Messi is yet to play for Paris Saint-Germain this season, but has been called up for Argentina's squad for the World Cup qualifiers next month. Paulo Dybala makes a long-awaited return to the Argentine squad. Having led Argentina to Copa America glory, Messi made a shock switch from Barcelona to Paris earlier in August. Though he's yet to make his debut for the team, the 34-year-old, along with his fellow Barca star Neymar, is expected to make his bow against Reims in Paris Saint-Germain final game before the international break. Messi, along with clubmates Angel Di Maria and Leonardo Padres, will then travel to South America for matches against Brazil, Venezuela, and Bolivia. However, despite the team coach giving his blessings for Messi to play for his country next month, this will result in the trio missing up to 4 games from Paris Saint-Germain's September fixtures. Argentina and Brazil are both on French government's red list for travelers, meaning arrivals must quarantine 10 days once they return to France, unless they have been fully vaccinated. It's unknown if the players in question have received both their doses to resume when they come back. Well, that's an interesting one to keep your eye on. Switching from football to tennis, world number 1 Ashley Barty warmed up for the US Open by clinching the Cincinnati Open with a straight-set victory to beat the 24-year-old Swiss wildcard 6-3, 6-1. The Australian managed 8 aces and 28 winners as she cruised to another commanding victory. On the men's side, Alexander Vovroch took the men's title with an impressive win 6-2, 6-3 against Andrea Brobly. It was the 5th title for Barty this season, and she remains a favorite to win the US Open title to add to her Wimbledon crown. Well, from tennis to the seas, Multi-Monster won the 130-mile power category in the NLCB Great Race on Saturday. The powerboat, guided by crew members Joel Sabini as a driver, Peter Peak as a throttleman, Daniel Peak as a navigator, and Joshua Sabini as the communications, finished the 91-mile journey from the foreshore in Mucurapo to Stowe Bay in Tobago in a time of 1 hour and 5 minutes. In 2018, Multi-Monster won the Great Race in what is an international record time of 47 minutes and 43 seconds. The lone rival, 18-time winner, Mr. Solo 2, seemed to have lost some fuzz along the way and placed second in the fastest competitive category. Well, with that, we've come to the end of the Sportscast for tonight. We invite you to like us on Facebook at MCTV, as well as U97.5 FM, Hot Like Pepper Multicultural Radio. So with that, it's back to you, Rishi.
Thank you very much, Gordon. And let's just update you on that game with West Indies and Pakistan. West Indies, second innings, 49 for 1 after 19 overs. That's at the close of play as well. So Pakistan 302 and 176 for 6 declared. The West Indies 150 all out and 49 for 1. So the West Indies, they need 280 runs to win with 9 wickets in hand. Hopefully there is no rain tomorrow and we can get the results. Craig Brathwaite is at the crease. He is on 17. And with him, night watchman Alzari Joseph. He is not out on 8. Karen Powell, he was run out for 23. So tomorrow is the 5th and final day of this match. So we will bring you the latest. But to some other news, where police officers, along with representatives of the Forestry Division of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, conducted a joint exercise in the Central Division on Saturday. It resulted in the arrest of 2 men and the seizure of a frozen armadillo, commonly called a tattoo, and 18 marijuana trees in 2 separate incidents. Based on information received, the officers executed a search warrant for arms and ammunition at a residence on Todd Station Road. Nothing mentioned in the warrant was found. However, the frozen tattoo was seized from the home. 59-year-old Baldat Boram was arrested in connection with the find. Game Warden Gilchrist Lopez continued inquiries, which led him to Boram being formally charged. He was granted bail at the Chaguanas police station and is scheduled to appear in court on August 30th. In the second incident, officers executed a search warrant for dangerous drugs at a house on Caroni Savannah Road, Chaguanas. They found 18 fully grown marijuana trees with an estimated street value of $90,000. A 22-year-old man was arrested, and PC Andre is continuing inquiries. And that's how we end this evening's news on MCTV and U97.5 FM Hot Like Pepper Multicultural Radio. I am Rishi Harinanan. On behalf of all of us here, have a good night.